today on Ag News Daily.
The risk we take, first of all, you leave a country, you leave your house, you sell your house, you sell your cars, you quit your jobs, and you leave your family. We still have a family here. That's extremely important. The risk you take financially, every business owner knows financially, you go full in. That's what we did too.
Well, welcome back to the weekly edition of the Ag News Daily Show.
You have lots of energy today. I'm surprised.
I got a cup of coffee in me. Usually I'm drinking the coffee while we do this, but I've also been rained out of the field all week.
That's true.
So maybe a little extra sleep.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
We did see this recent rainfall, along with several waves of heavy rain, significantly reduce that drought condition map that we talked about here across the western half of the Midwest. However, we have seen a little bit of localized flooding in the area, particularly Missouri, due to the intensity of those downpours. But after a brief break, another weather system is expected to bring scattered showers this weekend, with a second system likely to move through in next week, offering additional rain chances. Temperatures will remain above normal even after these systems pass, which should help to build that soil moisture and improve the conditions for winter wheat growth. I also saw, Delaney, that there's portions of Colorado and New Mexico that might see 4 feet
of
snow.
Wow.
Despite being near the U.S. Gulf Coast, Hurricane Raphael is forecasted to drift westward or southwestward and pose no threat to the areas of Texas and Florida. Meanwhile, the storm system currently impacting the southern Rockies and Plains will move northeastern, reaching the Great Lakes region late this weekend. So our scattered shower chances here in Iowa are just that. Seems like it's scattered. But that's it for the weather this week, Delaney.
Yeah, I'm kind of slowly watching and anticipating. When do you think we're going to get our first snowfall here in the Midwest?
I hope it's after Thanksgiving.
I do as well. But with that, farmers are wrapping up harvest as it is almost complete here as we head into the middle of November. 91% of the nation's corn crop has been harvested, up from 10% last week and well ahead of the 5-year average, which is typically at 75% for this time of year. 94% of the soybean crop has been harvested, up from 5% last week, as well as up from the 5-year average. 85% now complete. You know, we're getting to numbers here where we're probably not going to see a lot of big moves week to week on the crop progress report. And at a certain point, there's a number of acres that just don't get harvested.
That's right. And a lot of the people I've talked to have said there's a break in the tillage window. And as soon as it gets fit again, everybody's going to go really hard to try and get it done before it freezes. Of course, we had the election this week. The House and Senate Agricultural Committees will see changes in their membership during the 2025 legislative session. According to Farm Policy News, at least 2 incumbents, New York Representative Marcus Molinaro and Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, were not reelected, so those positions will need to be filled. Representative Molinaro, who joined the committee after his 2022 election, lost his seat to Democrat Josh Riley on the Senate Ag Committee. Incumbent Senator Sherrod Brown was first elected in 2006. He was defeated by Republican challenger Bernie Morano. Lots of names for me today already, Delaney. However, several incumbents were reelected, including Nebraska's Republican Senator Deb Fischer, Iowa Republican Representative Zach Nunn. They retained their seats. Zach's was in Iowa's 3rd congressional district. Democratic Representatives Eric Sorensen of Illinois and Angie Craig of Minnesota were both reelected for their second terms. And New Mexico's Democrat Gabe Vasquez was securing his second term, as well as Representative Johanna Hayes. They won re-election for their U.S. House seat for Connecticut.
Yeah, so some changes maybe to agricultural policy. But of course, the big one was President-elect Trump's resecured his nomination here. 63% of the rural vote, which was an even larger margin than what we saw in 2016 to win his second term in the White House on Tuesday. On Wednesday, many farm groups offered to work with the incoming administration to get the Farm Bill passed faster, now 14 months overdue, as well as addressing rising costs, they said was the other key area of focus. President of the American Farm Bureau Federation, Zippy Duvall, said in a press release after the election results, quote, "The administration must also address the impending tax hikes, which would crush many of America's farmers and ranchers when stacked on top of inflation, high supply costs, and market instability." Likewise, the National Farmers Union pointed to high costs, weather disasters, and the absence of that renewed 5-year farm bill. Earlier this year, President Trump has proposed tariffs ranging from 10% on all imports to as high as 60% on some goods from China. A study commissioned by grower groups warned that U.S. corn and soybean exports would be severely impacted in the event of a renewed trade war with China. In an American Farm Bureau Federation questionnaire before the election, President Trump said that American agriculture is built on science, technology, and innovation, and the U.S. needs to stay ahead of China with these science investments. However, as a lot of discussion has been happening, China has already largely been pulling back from doing business with the United States. But President Trump emphasized that these tariffs would be used to reduce trade barriers for U.S. food and agricultural exports, which we saw during the trade war with China that ended in 2020. Farmers received about $23 billion in trade war payments to offset some of those losses, and it's expected if we do see that again, we'll probably see some similar payments, Tanner.
Yeah, and I wonder if there will be ongoing threats. We did see China under this new administration, trade policies could have that increased market access to China. The world's largest importer of soybeans will be under close scrutiny as we look forward. China imposed a retaliatory tariff on U.S. ag goods after Trump's tariffs on those Chinese imports, and the U.S. soy exports to China have never fully recovered since then. So since 2018, that trade war, China has significantly reduced its reliance, like you said, Delaney, on American products, especially farm goods. Now that Trump is threatening new tariffs on Chinese imports, the likelihood of improved access to China's agricultural market does appear to be slim. However, China would likely respond with further tariffs, reducing that market access even more. Additionally, Trump's tariff policies would also target imports from other countries where U.S. farmers hope to expand their sales. The U.S. is projected to face a record of $42.5 billion in agricultural trade deficit by 2025, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, something that we'll continue to watch. But we also saw that maybe Iowa gets to host the World's
That's
Fair.
right. We'll have to talk more about that. But I did also see President Xi Jinping reached out to President Trump upon his reelection, so there may be a little bit more to the story there. But with farmers facing tight margins and still waiting for a new farm bill, the Farm Assistance and Revenue Mitigation, or FARM Act, has been introduced in Congress to help ease financial pressures. Farm CPA Paul Neiffer, speaking at the Top Producer podcast, said the $20 billion in aid sought for farmers could provide significant release. The FARM Act, introduced last month with sponsorship from over 40 members of Congress, has garnered support from several major commodity groups as well. The bill specifically targets 8 crops: corn, soybeans, wheat, rice, sorghum, oats, cotton, and barley, and other crops as well. The USDA is required to use a comparable estimate of gross returns, adhering to the same methodology outlined in the bill. But legislators say they're aiming to address farmers' immediate financial needs by providing economic assistance for the 2024 crop year. Payments would be based on the per-acre cost of production, covering 60% of economic losses on those eligible acres. Regarding payment limitations, individuals or entities earning less than 75% of their income from farming would have a cap of $175,000 in payments, but those with at least 75% of their income coming from farming would have a higher limit of $350,000. The National Sorghum Producers Association has noted that the potential scale of payments has sparked conversation on Capitol Hill, signaling a positive step toward addressing some of those farmers' concerns.
I think that's the first acronym that made sense.
Farm Act. I know. It was a good one, whoever came up with that one in Congress.
Exactly. Well, this lame duck session that's ahead of us here, Congress will represent one of its last chances at completing that farm bill we've been talking so much about. Industry experts say it would require a compromise on a number of tricky issues. Farm Policy News reports that the House and the Senate leaders must agree on spending in critical areas. The Senate Agricultural Committee Chair, Debbie Stabenow, is seen as a crucial spot to getting this farm bill finished this year, with some of the insiders suggesting that she is motivated to make it her legacy as she is not seeking re-election. However, an AgWeb report from Farm Journal notes that some of Washington's contacts estimate that only 15% chance that a passing of the new farm bill will take place in the remaining session. A veteran farm lobbyist said the simplest path forward would be for Republicans to drop demands on their cuts for SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, while Democrats agree to raise reference prices. So that's extremely basic and simple way of looking at it, but that's the way that writer sees a path forward.
Well, farmers are taking out loans at a rate and scale not seen in years as weakened crop prices put pressure on the agricultural sector, according to a new report from the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. The volume of new operating loans surged at its fastest pace since 2017, with commercial banks issuing 40% more loans to farmers compared to last year. Farmers are not only borrowing more frequently, but they said the amounts are also in larger quantities. For the first time in at least 2 decades, loans exceeding $1 million accounted for a majority of lending volume. The growth in loan activity was concentrated among small and mid-sized lenders, highlighting the financial strain on family farms and smaller operations that lack some of those resources to withstand volatile commodity markets. Farmers are facing challenges from weakened global demand, such as China, an oversupply of corn and soybeans, which has, of course, driven prices down, and further squeezed producer margins. Tanner, and I think the other key here is we had a couple of good years of lots of liquidity, and we're starting to see that absorbed in the market as well.
Yeah, one of the biggest things from my time in finance was measuring the burn rate of capital, and we might have burnt through most of it, according to that report. We did see that the National Wheat Yield Contest has announced the 26 national and 94 state winners for 2024, marking the contest's 9th year. This year they saw a record 516 entries, which is the highest in history. Bernard Peterson, chairman of the National Wheat Foundation and a Kentucky farmer, credited the favorable growing conditions in many of the wheat-producing states last spring for sparking greater interest and enthusiasm among these participants. According to the press release, the contest encouraged wheat growers to aim for high yields, quality, and profitability while experimenting with new management techniques. Of the 26 national winners, 7 are first-time national honorees, while 19 have placed nationally in previous years. The full list of winners, obviously, can be found here in our show notes as you follow that link to get to those results.
Well, Tanner, as we make our way here into our interview, we're going to be talking about the world of ag fashion. You never thought we'd be having that one on the podcast, did you?
I didn't, but I think I'm an exemplary, or I'm an example of high ag fashion.
I'm sure. Well, just a few weeks ago at the World Dairy Expo, Michelle connected with many dairy farmers and industry experts. Although there were some booths that made the American dream possible. Let's get into that interview with 4D Ag Fashion and World.
We're here having a conversation with 4D Ag World and Fashion, 2 brands that have a unique story of how they got here today. Thank you so much for joining me. We have Elizabeth and Bram. Let's first start with you. What is your background and your connection to 4D Ag World?
So 4D Ag World is a family company, long time in the dairy industry. We've always come at this from the cow aspect. As a company, we're really focused on cow comfort, and anything we can help with remodels, new projects, so to say, chances are we have the products for you.
And what is your experience with 4D Ag World? Tell me about that.
So I came on board 2 years ago. Like I said, it was a family company. As it grew, opportunities arose for me to come on board. We've been trying to fill that void and also grow at the same time. Because at the end of the day, when you add to the team, it also needs to get paid for. Yep. And so we're working on growing. Obviously, new customer acquisition, also dealer networks, working on that aspect, and that's a large part of my day-to-day role.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're here at the World Dairy Expo. Just name a few things that you're talking about.
So we have rubber flooring for our customers. We do freestyle equipment. And we also do ventilation, so we're talking about a lot of new products. Ventilation, we're constantly adapting to the needs of the customer, making conversion kits for existing fans that they already have from competitors. Also showing them what we have to offer on our side And so that's the bulk of what we're doing here.
Great. And Elizabeth, you have the flour, you have the fashion. You are here with 4D Ag Fashion. Tell me more about you and who you are at 4D Ag Fashion.
Flour is there almost every day just to brighten up my own day, but also I hope that people will recognize it and brighten up your day, I hope, if you need it. 4D Ag Fashion started 2 years after 4D Ag World just because customers asked about can you guys make a calf jacket? Calf jackets were pretty expensive at that time in the U.S. We lived in India, my husband and I, for 4 years, so we had it outsourced there. And that's how we started with 4D Ag Fashion. Not even a big plan of doing all the clothing and introducing that. Then one of our customers in West Texas said, hey, if I buy calf jackets from you, can you also make the clothing? So I have one source to buy everything. Again, never thought about it. We set up a clothing factory, a manufacturing facility in India. We have a business partner there. We own the business with him. So we have everything in our own control. That's why we can work really fast and then get new products on the market. So that's 2 years after 4D Ag World started. We also started with 4D Ag Fashion, and pretty soon we made it its own LLC. It was still under the wings of 4D Ag World, but it grew so much in 2 years, and now it's a different LLC on its own as well.
Now 4D, why 4D?
Great question. We started, we all have our last name is DeVries. My maiden name is Dykstra. So it's the 4 Ds of our last name. So it's 4D Ag World and 4D Ag Fashion.
Now, our listeners may be hearing a bit of an accent, maybe. You've immigrated here to the United States. Let's start with you, Ron. Tell me about your immigration story.
So we originally immigrated early on in the 90s, dairied all the while. I was essentially 4 years old when it came. Grew up on the dairy, and then through the years went through school here and stuff like that, and kind of came up that way. And so ever since I was 4 years old, we've been stateside and living life as the American dream.
And where was that bar?
In Texas originally. Yes, ma'am. And then from there, we were into the embryos and showing cattle and stuff like that, then moved to Wisconsin. Dairied there as well.
Wow. And you're here since 4 years old. Before that, where were you at?
Originally from the Netherlands, from Holland.
Wow. And that's where we have this. You're
the clogs.
Yes.
Yes,
You're still appreciating that Netherlands background.
We do, very much. Yes, ma'am.
And how do you do that?
We still have, honestly, my parents, my siblings, everybody still lives in the Netherlands. I was blessed to get 3 stepchildren as soon as I met Bram's dad 20 years ago. But our heritage is there. There's a reason we immigrated, and everybody works hard, but we cannot fail. There's no way to fail. So we will do basically everything about it to make it work. And now we're growing so much thanks to our customers. So that is awesome. But yeah, the heritage is there. And again, my whole family is there. So except for my stepkids and 6 grandkids are here, luckily. So yeah. It's always in our blood and in our hearts.
Now, what's your story, your immigration?
I met JP, that is Bram's dad, 20 years ago in the Netherlands. And then in 2011, we moved to India just for a small project of 4 years, setting up large-scale dairy farms. That was really interesting. It was really good for us to learn new things as well. Also get the source of the manufacturing facility, what we have now in India for the clothing. And then we moved back to the Netherlands, set up 4D Ag World with our family, with our kids, our sons. And then we decided to move to the U.S. If you want to have a business here, you have to move here. You have to be determined to be here. You cannot sit on the laptop in Holland with 7 hours difference as well. That doesn't help either. So we decided to move here. We lived in a fifth wheel for a year and a half. So we did the whole American dream, and now we're here.
Yeah, you said you're continuing to grow, so does that mean you have some customers in the Netherlands as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. For the fashion brand, we have customers in Europe. We have 3 wholesalers. That can be way bigger. So I'm doing my first show in Europe in 3 weeks, actually. So I'm going to Europe in 3 weeks, have my first show. It can be a big failure. It can be a huge success. It can be something in the middle we don't know, but we just take risks and just see it. But we do have 3 wholesale customers in Europe, and the rest is mostly US and Canada.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've taken a risk. You said that. Yeah. You've taken a lot. Name some of the risks you've taken with some of your products and how they've really gone really well. Like, I'm thinking cow prints. That was a recent launch you've had, and just to see some of the success you're having is pretty cool.
Thank you. We have 6 boxes overnighted right now because we sold out yesterday almost all our cow prints. So that was a really, really big success. We also had some less success stories. You know, you come out with a print and everybody's like, no, that's not what we want. That's an investment too. The risk we take, first of all, you leave a country, you leave your house, you sell your cars, you quit your jobs, and you leave your family. We still have a family here. That's extremely important. The risk you take financially, every business owner knows financially, you go full in. That's what we did too. Like I said, we lived in a fifth wheel. At that time, that was absolutely no problem. But now with the 6 grandkids we have and a life we have, I cannot imagine to live in a fifth wheel anymore. You know, now we have a house and things like that. But that is the risk you take. At that moment, it's not a big deal. At this moment, I think, I don't want to go back to that moment, so let's fight for it. So financially, it's a big risk. You invest in a lot of product. You never know if they're going to be successful, yes or no. There's some things on the shelves in Canyon, Texas that you're like, we're probably going to leave it there. It's going to catch a lot of dust. And that is fine too. And now with the cow print. And now today we came out with camel print bibs. That's the big reveal today.
So let's transition to more the 40 egg world side. What are those conversations that you keep having a lot of?
Yep. First off, back to, we talked about being international on the fashion side. On the 40 egg world side, we're more United States based. We are doing some jobs in Canada, so to say, Mexico even, as of recent. With that being said, a lot of the conversations that we're having here, it wholly goes back to the cow comfort side. And with us being in the dairy industry, in the dairy industry, and being able to relate to the dairymen and what they see on a day-to-day basis, really focusing on the hassles of day-to-day, trying to eliminate problems for the customers. That's where we see ourselves different from the competition. We can relate. And when they can come in here and talk to us about a problem they're having and be able to relate and bring them a product that solves that problem, yes, it's sales, right? But it comes at it from a different aspect, and that's a big focus of our company. Also with the fashion side, right? We don't sell an item. Yes, you have some that are cool and everybody wants, right? But if it doesn't solve a need, it's not being sold. And then so trying to relate, and that's the interaction at World Dairy Expo too, is you hear what's going on and you get the heartbeat, so to say, and then you're able to.
That's it. Will I be able to see you in a cow prints overalls when you're working?
If you want, we can make a camera shot. We can make that happen. Even pink if you want. I'm good with that. Oh yeah, no problem.
It's just a huge family affair. But when you go to the farm and you're talking with these farmers or by the phone, what really excites you when you're having these conversations in the dairy industry?
Really, to see where the dairy industry is going. The dairy industry is not easy. You know, you get the ebbs and flows of milk prices, and really it comes down to most of the dairymen are really entrepreneurial at heart, and being able to fill that void of them having the time to develop some of this stuff and being as a partner. We're not set in our ways on the stuff that we have, and being able to pivot and accommodate some of their needs and the ideas that they have. That's super exciting. And so we're able to remodel. We're able to give them products to remodel. We're able to do new facilities and everything in between. We talk to people who are grass-based all the way up to large-scale facilities and everything in between, and that gives us a lot of energy.
Now, you mentioned the future, and you're saying retrofitting, trying to offer that. Do you see that continuing, and why, of how valuable that really is?
At the end of the day, we need to meet producers in the middle. We would love to sell new products, new fans, but there's a lot of construction aspects that have to happen, and sometimes that's not always feasible. But how do we do the best for the cow? And so that's where the conversion kits, being able to put our fan motors and our product line into someone else's housing to save on construction costs. It's meeting the dairyman in the middle to where it's not a full-blown, once-in-a-lifetime rebuild, so to say. And still doing the best for the cow and the dairyman in the same conversation. It's not always ideal on how we would like to do it, but being able to pivot and help with that gives you that lifelong customer. And that's what we're focused on. We can do a point of contact and keep it really simple and transactional, but that doesn't keep you in the business down the road. And the sacrifices that have been made, you don't want to just, here we did it and then do one transaction and be done with it. We want to, at the end of the day, I'm coming in next generation. The dairyman has kids coming in next generation. And hopefully someday my kids are sitting at the table and you keep rolling that forward. So that's what we're focused on.
And the ways you really expanded allow you to be part of this family business is what I'm continuing to hear. But as we look at the fashion side of things, where do you see the future being and continuing to offer what you do?
The dream is my granddaughters. So his daughters, we have a son with a daughter, we have a daughter with a daughter. I think in the future, I'm still pretty young. I'm a little younger than Bram's dad. Bram's dad is going to step away a little bit next year when Bram is taking over. Most part for fashion, I'm going to stay in business still for a long time. But we have big plans for Bram and maybe his daughters or his sons or whoever wants to do it. Both companies have a really good chance of keep growing and keep developing. So we see a bright future probably for Bram and our family in fashion as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, when I think of some of the clothing options that you offer, I'm thinking washable. I'm thinking some of those things. What really are some of those elements that you keep talking about that people are interested in? And as clothing growers, like, it's changed, and it's maybe changed with some of the trends. So what do you see?
A good question. We honestly, shows like this give us the best ideas. We hear a lot of good ideas. We deal with a lot of large-scale dairy farms in, for example, West Texas. They need 20 aprons at a time, or 50. We also talk to dairy farms. They come once a year. They come here. They need one apron, or they need nothing. That's fine too, because the apron is still working well. We respect and really enjoy both of those sides customers. In West Texas, it's becoming mandatory, almost mandatory, to have high-vis reflectors on your clothing. So we already, 2 years ago, we stepped into that side, that we put a lot of high-vis reflectors on the bibs already, and the coveralls as well. First, honestly, 2 years ago, a lot of people were like, ooh, that's fancy, ooh, we don't want that. Now, a lot of people step in, like, yeah, we need that. Insurance companies are asking for it already. What are you doing to protect your guys who are outside, calf feeders, you name it. So that's where we step in already on that. But again, we have the small customer who buys one product a year, and we have the large customers who buy 4,000 calf jackets a year. And both of us give us a lot of energy, but also a lot of ideas.
Yeah. I can only imagine. You mentioned regulatory. Is there anything else that you're really capitalizing on that you're hearing from either insurance companies or the government that you're kind of paying attention to?
For the clothing, there's not many rules and regulations for the fan side and for the wool side. Bram works a lot with construction companies, and that's where you get all the rules from, right?
A lot of it is regulation based, but I would say the majority of it comes back to animal husbandry, right? From an insurance standpoint, with methane digesters and that sort of stuff, methane levels inside of buildings with ventilation, all that's very important, but we already are approaching it from the animal husbandry side because methane is not good for an animal to be breathing, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand, and one pushes the other, and so on and so forth. And the high-vis clothing, safety is a huge aspect. With machinery, we don't get into the machinery aspect, right? But the proper safeties and guards on the fans and all that sort of stuff, it all interrelates on the dairy side. So
that methane digester, was that becoming a popularity, especially these past few years? That's something you're capitalizing on?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of teaching at the end of the day because of certain scenarios we see in the industry, and then being able to have ventilations respond to methane levels and the readings inside the buildings. That offers a lot of opportunity to not only teach, but then also bring them the options and solutions for those applications.
We've had a lot of great conversation. Is there anything else that you both want to add about just what you love doing here and in your businesses?
It's pretty simple for me. I love the dairy industry. I love every customer, like I said before already. I love every idea, because not all the ideas come from us. It's coming from our customers, most of it. The dairy industry is always moving. There's always something going on. It's never boring. And yeah, I think we should thank all our customers, but also you, to give us the opportunity to speak out here. And yeah, we have a bright future ahead for Ford.
Your platform is very important.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, getting in front of customers, we can only interact with so many. Being able to have this long-form conversation, talk about products, is very important. And I guess at the end of the day, to the dairy industry, if you have an idea, let's collaborate. Let's find a solution for it, because we can pivot and we can accommodate.
Absolutely. And we love providing information to our viewers and listeners. So we thank them for joining us here today for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. 4D Ag, World and Fashion, Bram and Elizabeth. Thanks for
Thank you, Michelle, for having us.
Appreciate it.
What a great interview. I had to figure out what 4D was in the world of fashion.
Maybe they need to sponsor you so we can improve some of your outfits weren't on the show here.
That's right. Well, it's thanks to Michelle for doing that. But Delaney, we always get into our markets. So did the election have any effect on what we saw this week?
Certainly, Tanner. That was the biggest attention that the markets had this week, overshadowing the fact that we do have a Friday WASDE report today as well. But after the election, we saw cryptocurrency, grain markets, livestock, and the outside markets all have seen some strength following the conclusion of the election, except for maybe soybeans, a little question mark there with trade tariffs potentially in the works. The Dow Jones hit their best daily gain since 2022. Bitcoin hit an all-time high, and the U.S. dollar rose to its highest level since July of 2024. Adding some positive sentiment to the markets, the Federal Reserve unanimously voted to drop interest rates this week by 0.25%, now sitting at a Fed fund rate of 4.5 to 4.75% rate, the lowest since March of 2023. And of course, to wrap up the week, as I mentioned there, the WASDE report will drop later today after the recording of our show. But the USDA is potentially going to update the balance sheet for domestic and global production for the first time for this 2024 crop. But major adjustments and final numbers really won't happen until January. So we'll see if today's WASDE report will be a market mover, Tanner.
That's right. We should have some good content over on the Farm for Profit channel coming out Monday. So if you want further analysis of that WASDE report, go ahead and tune in there. But thank you for hanging out with us here at Ag News Daily and joining this weekly show, watching our daily content that comes out. Continue to follow us. We'd love for you to share us with your friends and family. And if you've got some Thanksgiving traditions that you want us to talk about on an upcoming show, send those our way as well. We appreciate you taking the time to be here with us.
Absolutely, Tanner. But what do you say we let the people go?
Let's let them go.